If you think about it, Qui-Gon Jinn was the catalyst for the entire Skywalker saga. Without him, there was practically no Star Wars, well, except for George Lucas. But Qui-Gon Jinn's legend did not begin in The Phantom Menace. In fact, it began decades ago on Coruscant, where he was raised inside the Jedi Temple. He was taken as a child, and at age 10, he became the apprentice of Jedi Knight Count Dooku. Today we're going to go ahead and show you why Qui-Gon Jinn is one of the most unique and powerful Jedi to have ever lived. Not only that, but when it came time for the Sith to rise secretly, both Plagueis and Palpatine were deathly afraid of one Jedi, and you guessed it, it is Qui-Gon Jinn. You see, Qui-Gon, even as a Padawan, stood out. For example, during an annual exhibition day tournament among the temple students, he defeated every challenger and ultimately bested his fellow Padawan Tal in a fierce final duel. This made Dooku so impressed that he chose Qui-Gon as his apprentice right then and there, vowing to sculpt him into a Jedi who might even surpass Master Yoda one day. Under Dooku's tutelage, Qui-Gon grew into a Jedi Knight and later earned his Jedi Master rank after training his own Padawan. One of the more notable things he did, of course, as we discussed, is him going on to discover Anakin Skywalker, quote-unquote the chosen one of the Jedi prophecy, bring him before the Jedi Order, a decision that would change the fate of the galaxy. When talking about the Jedi Council and Qui-Gon Jinn, we have some big drama going on in there. Of course, the Jedi Council did recognize Qui-Gon's extraordinary power, but they had a problem with his methods. Jedi Master Mace Windu openly admitted that Qui-Gon's mastery of the Force was so great he would have qualified for a council seat if only he was just a little less headstrong. A younger Obi-Wan later confessed to Qui-Gon that you deserve to be sitting on the council if only he followed the code more strictly. In other words, every Jedi around him agreed Qui-Gon had the skill, wisdom, and force prowess of a council member. He simply chose his own path. This pattern of excellence and independence would continue throughout his life until his dying breath. Let's talk about lightsaber combat, for example. Qui-Gon's lightsaber skills were the stuff of legend. In the complete Star Wars encyclopedia, he is quoted as being one of the Order's most formidable members, and Count Dooku himself, his former master, proclaimed that Qui-Gon is one of the best Jedi he had ever trained in his life. Yeah, this reputation was well earned. He sparred regularly with the temple's elite, legendary duelists such as Anan Bondara, known galaxy-wide for his speed. Dooku admitted that when he saw Bondara sparring with Qui-Gon, he was humbled by Qui-Gon's superior skill. Qui-Gon also trained Obi-Wan Kenobi, and in The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan acknowledges that Qui-Gon is a better swordsman for now, though Qui-Gon admitted that one day he could surpass him. One of the more notable things in his life is when he was younger, Qui-Gon swept the Exhibition Day lightsaber tournament, besting all opponents and defeating Tal in the final bout. As a Jedi Master, he fought in countless duels across the galaxy. On Dantooine, he faced and subdued his renegade Padawan Xanatos, even remarking mid-fight, "Your footwork betrays you," as he anticipated Xanatos' moves and drove him back. I believe this is why in the end Obi-Wan would go on to best Anakin. We have a parallel here. Xanatos was Qui-Gon's former apprentice, similar to how Anakin was the former apprentice of Obi-Wan. When both masters dueled with their apprentices, it was obvious that the masters were still better. Let's talk about the Phantom Menace novelization. In Episode 1, of course, we see Qui-Gon dueling Darth Maul, and while Qui-Gon held most of his own during the fight, the novelization explains that Qui-Gon matched Maul's furious strokes with a disciplined intensity, and even caused Maul to think that the Force favors this Jedi. By this, we can understand that Qui-Gon was so superior mentally to Maul that he created inner doubt inside the Sith Lord, even thinking that the Force favors him. Maul could also observe that he could feel each of Qui-Gon's blows shuddering through Maul's body. This is a testament of Qui-Gon's strength, that one clash with his lightsaber, Maul could feel it vibrating through his body. In the climactic lightsaber duel, It was only Qui-Gon's waning stamina, not a lack of skill, that tipped the battle in Maul's favor. So even in large-scale combat, Qui-Gon's swordsmanship was unmatched. In the Phantom Menace novelization, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are noted for deflecting blaster fire so expertly that they were destroying more droids than all of the rest of Queen Amidala's people put together. Facing a barrage of battle droids and tanks, they never struck with their blades directly. Instead, every deflected bolt found the enemy target. They were not only deflecting, but they were precise also. In short, with this, you can kind of get an understanding of Qui-Gon's lightsaber ability and reflexes that frequently outclassed everybody. All these feats, exhibition wins, stalemates against the Sith, and sheer battlefield effectiveness cemented why Qui-Gon Jinn is remembered as one of the Order's finest and best duelists. However, when we talk about Force abilities, this is another topic altogether. Beyond his blade, Qui-Gon's Force mastery was uncanny to any other Jedi. In Legends, there are many accounts it is expressed Qui-Gon had perfect mastery of the Force. He used the Force in battle as easily as breathing. For example, Qui-Gon could demolish obstacles and crush foes at a very distant range. One account describes him telekinetically smashing a battle droid into a wall with such a force that the droid broke apart, and in combat with Xanatos, he even ducked under a sliding view screen and responded with lightning-fast lunges, all the while using the Force to perceive his enemies' moves. There's one great account that shows young Qui-Gon's precognition and reflexes were very enhanced in the Force. As a youngling, he drew his lightsaber with the Force only a fraction of a second later than Dooku did. So even as a young Padawan, he nearly matched his master's reaction time. In the book Jedi Apprentice: A Dark Rival, it is explained that in pitch darkness, Qui-Gon was able to let the Force guide him. In this novel, it is explained that even blind, Qui-Gon could still fight because he could still feel his opponent through the Force. He even taught Obi-Wan how he could filter the noise and eavesdrop on distant conversations by only focusing on the Force. We've already seen his gift as a telepath or his Jedi mind trick. In the novelization of The Phantom Menace, this is much more clearly explained. Even in a dangerous terrain such as Tatooine or Mos Eisley, he navigated through it pretty much effortlessly. Overall, every category of Force skill, he had superseded in it. This lent credence to the Jedi Order. Masters like Mace Windu and Yoda regarded him as virtually peerless in Force ability. But in the end, when we talk about the Jedi Council, we have to mention his philosophy, because this is where it comes to a clash. Yet this is what really stood out about Qui-Gon. This is what set him apart, was how he applied the Force. He was a foremost disciple of the living Force philosophy, emphasizing intuition and the present moment over rigid dogma. He taught Obi-Wan that a Jedi must keep his concentration here and now, a lesson Obi-Wan later passed on to Luke Skywalker. In the novelization, it is explained that Qui-Gon trusted whatever the Force told him in the moment, even if it meant disobeying the Council. A prime example of this occurred with Anakin. Later in life, Obi-Wan would remember a lot of Qui-Gon's teachings and words. One in particular was that life is a complex path that is determined by the will of the living Force. This meant that Qui-Gon believed in following destiny as it unfolded in the moment. This philosophical legacy endured. His focus on present awareness and listening to the Force guidance became a hallmark for later Jedi, like Grand Master Luke Skywalker, for example, and even Yoda for a brief period of time after Order 66. There is one instance where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were on Kashyyyk for Life Day. This is the day when Qui-Gon taught Obi-Wan that harmony with one's surrounding, a living Force principle, was an important combat skill. In the novelization, for example, Qui-Gon did not consider Jar Jar Binks to be brainless. He just communicated in his own way. So this showed you that Qui-Gon had respect for all sentient life, and in short, Qui-Gon's philosophy was to stay mindful, compassionate, and in tune with the Force living current. It remains one of his most influential contributions to future Jedi and future Jedi thought. In the end, of course, you could say that his biggest feat to have remained a legacy for all Jedi after him is him achieving a sort of immortality. Not only did he achieve immortality for himself, he went on to teach other Jedi after him, even Master Yoda. Of course, by the time of his death, Qui-Gon was universally regarded as a legendary Jedi Master. The book Mysteries of the Jedi even billed him as one of the most powerful Jedi Knights of all time. He changed the galaxy's course by finding Anakin Skywalker and insisted that he be trained in the Jedi arts. In doing so, we know that in the end he rebuilt the Jedi Temple. The cycle, of course, continued even in Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order between the darkness and the light, but it needed to be rebuilt, and Qui-Gon Jinn was the catalyst for this. The big question is, would everything have changed if Qui-Gon had survived that encounter with Maul on Naboo? The answer is most definitely yes. We need first of all to start with Palpatine. Sidious showed no fear. He orchestrated galactic war. He deceived the Jedi Council and played both sides of the Civil War like a master puppeteer. But there was one Jedi that he couldn't control, and we all know that that Jedi is Qui-Gon Jinn. The Council called him a maverick. His peers saw him as rebellious, but to Palpatine, well, Qui-Gon was as dangerous as they came, not because he was the strongest duelist or politically savvy, but because he listened to the Force and not the Senate, not the Council, and definitely not politics. Qui-Gon wasn't just a rogue Jedi, he was a true Jedi, one of the last who believed in balance, not dogma. He called out the Order's stagnation, he disobeyed the Council to do what was right, and that made him unpredictable. Of course, in saying this, Palpatine feared that he couldn't manipulate Qui-Gon Jinn. In the end, we even discover that Dooku could be swayed. The Jedi Council could be blinded, but Qui-Gon trusted the living Force too deeply. He would have seen through the lies, and more importantly, Qui-Gon would have seen through him. If we imagine a timeline where Qui-Gon had lived, he would have trained Anakin, not with rules or suppression, but with empathy. He would have been someone Anakin could talk to about fear, about Padme, and about love. Instead of secrets and shame, Anakin might have had some trust. With this, you see where I'm going. If Qui-Gon had lived, there would be no fall to the dark side, there would be no Vader, and ultimately there would be no Empire. What's even more, in case you forgot, if Qui-Gon had survived, Dooku might not have turned to the dark side, since Qui-Gon's death was the ultimate catalyst for Dooku joining Palpatine. In the end, Qui-Gon wasn't just a great Jedi, he was the Jedi that could have stopped everything before it began. In saying that, we would have had a totally different Star Wars. So, thank you so much for watching this video, and leave all of your thoughts down below in the comments.